Hi, this is Nicole Meisberg, and I'm going to be demonstrating the first page of the Biochemical Test 1. The first test I'm going to be demonstrating is the starch amylose hydrolysis. And for this, we're going to need the starch agar plate, the source culture broth of whatever bacteria you're using, a micro incinerator, and iodine. So let me tell you a little bit about starch hydrolysis. Starch consists of two molecules, amylose and amylopectin. Both are hydrolyzed by the bacterium that makes amylase. Then, when you add the iodine, you can detect the presence of the starch. Okay, so let me walk you through this. I'm going to demonstrate the aseptic technique from broth to plate. So first, you're going to use an inoculation loop for this test. And of course, you want to sterilize everything before you start your experiment or test. First, you're going to sterilize your inoculation loop. You're going to stick it in the micro incinerator for 10 seconds. Let it sit for a minute, making sure that all of the metal part of the loop was in the micro incinerator. Then you're going to pick up the broth culture. You're going to flick it a little bit to mix up the bacteria inside. Then you're going to take the lid off with your pinky. And you're going to stick the very lip of the broth culture right in front of the micro incinerator hole, so it'll sterilize that part, the very top of it, for about 2 to 3 seconds. Then after that, you're going to take your inoculation loop, stick it into the broth culture, grab some of the bacteria. So now that we have the bacteria on the inoculation loop, you're going to take the test tube that has the broth culture in it, and we're going to need to close it. Before doing that, we're going to do the same thing that we did when we opened it. We're going to take the very lip of it and place it right in front of the micro incinerator for 2 to 3 seconds, and then close it, putting the lid back on, and set it aside. Then we are going to take our starch agar plate, open it clamshell style so that the lid doesn't open all the way and get contaminants in. So for this one, we're going to just do a single line streak across the agar and close the clamshell. And then we're going to want to turn it upside down and incubate that at 37 degrees Celsius for 24 hours to 48 hours, or until the species have grown. Then we still have bacteria in our inoculation loop, so we have to sterilize that. Put it in the micro incinerator for 10 seconds and let it sit for a minute. All right, and then you are done with the inoculation loop. So after the 24 to 48 hours, we're going to look to see if there's any growth. If there is growth, we're going to add several drops of this iodine to the starch agar plate. And then you're going to gently take the plate and swirl it around just to get it all over. So when you swirl the iodine around, the whole plate is going to be kind of brownish, brown. All right, so now we're going to look at the growth. If it's a negative test, you're going to see a purple brownish color all the way up to the growth. So there's no transparency, nothing. It's just all purpley brown. If you're going to see a positive result, there should be a clear section around the growth streak. So that is what my positive result looks like. The clear section around the growth means that the starch in the agar plate has hydrolyzed and therefore has been broken down by this amylase enzyme. So that is starch hydrolysis test. The second test I will be demonstrating is casein hydrolysis. For this test, you're going to need a casein agar plate, microincinerator, source culture broth of your bacteria, and that is it. First, like always, you're going to start off sterilizing your inoculation loop. An inoculation loop is used in this test. Sterilize for 10 seconds. Let sit for 1 minute. Then you're going to take your source broth culture and you're going to flick it around a bit to get that bacteria mixed. And you're going to take off the cap with your pinky. Then you're going to take the lip of it and place it in front of the micro incinerator for 2 to 3 seconds, sterilizing the top. Then you're going to stick your sterilized inoculation loop into the broth culture. Pull it out. And you have the bacteria on your inoculation loop. Then, before you close the lid, you're going to take your broth culture again, take the lip of it, and stick it right in front of the micro incinerator for 2 to 3 seconds. Place the lid back on with your pinky and put that aside. And then you're going to take your inoculation loop. And for this one, this test, you're going to also do just one streak down the casein agar plate. And of course, when you open the plate, you're going to use the clamshell. Then you're going to close that, and then you're going to stick it upside down in the incubator at 37 degrees Celsius for 24 hours to 48 hours, or until the species have grown on the plate. And then, of course, don't forget to sterilize your inoculation loop when you're all done. Put it for 10 seconds in the microincinerator, and let it sit for a minute, and then put it away. So let me tell you a little bit about casein hydrolysis. Casein is the main protein in milk. Casein is what gives milk its opaque white appearance. And the bacteria produce an exoenzyme called caseinase. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And that's able to hydrolyze the protein into an amino acid that appears transparent in the medium. So when we're going to look at the results after the 24 to 48 hours, we're going to check for growth. And in this case, you're not adding anything. You're just checking for growth. If there's no growth, you write no growth. If there's no growth, then it's a negative result. It's still this same color. It's white, opaque, unchanged. But if there is a positive result, you're going to see around the growth, I mean, you can't, like, I don't have like an eraser to erase this beige, like off-white color, but just picture that this is clear and transparent around the growth, which means the Casein was able to hydrolyze the amino acids in the protein. Also, another positive result is you would see the clear zone around the growth, but you'd also see some green around it as well. So those are two positive results for the casein hydrolysis test. All right, and that is the end of that test. So the third test I'm going to do is the tryptophan hydrolysis, or the indole test. So for this one, you're going to need tryptophan broth, the source culture broth of your bacteria, the micro incinerator, and Covex reagent. And this one. All right, so of course, you always start off by sterilizing your inoculation loop. This one also uses an inoculation loop. Stick it in there for 10 seconds. Let it sit for a minute. This one, you're going to take your source culture broth. Do the same thing you did before in the past two. Flick it around to get the bacteria mixed. Take the lid off with your pinky. Stick the very lip of that test tube in front of the micro incinerator for 2 to 3 seconds to sterilize. Then you're going to stick your inoculation loop, get some source culture, and then before you close and put the cap on of your broth with the bacteria in it, you're going to stick it back, the lip of it back in front of the micro incinerator for 2 to 3 seconds. Then put the cap back on and put it away. Next, you're going to take your tryptophan broth and you're going to take the cap off with your pinky. Stick the lip part of it up right next to the opening of the micro incinerator for 2 to 3 seconds. And then you can inoculate the broth with the bacteria. Stick broth in there. Take out your loop. Then you stick the lip part again up to the front of the micro incinerator for 2 to 3 seconds. And then you can stick the cap back on and incubate it at 37 degrees Celsius for 12 to 48 hours. Not 24, 12 to 48 hours. And then, of course, when you're done, you sterilize your inoculation loop for 10 seconds and let it sit for a minute and put it away. So let me tell you a little bit more about tryptophan. Tryptophan is also one of the largest and most complex of the amino acids. It has a prune-like portion called indole, which would indicate why we are doing an indole test. This indole is bonded covalently to an animated pyruvate. Some bacteria make an enzyme called tryptophanase. I think that's how you pronounce it. And that is able to hydrolyze the tryptophan into an indole. The indole. So it's hydrolyzed into an indole and a pyruvate and an ammonia. So in this test, the presence of indole can be detected with the addition of this Kovacs reagent. The reagent reacts with the indole to produce a bright red cherry oily compound, and it floats on top of the surface of the medium. So when you are done incubating the tryptone broth, what you're going to do, like I stated earlier, is you're going to take the Kovacs reagent and you're going to add 10 drops. After you've added the drops, you're going to take the test tube and rotate the tube between your palms so that it mixes up. Then you're going to look at the results. If it is a negative result, around the surface, you're going to see some green or yellow, a green or yellow ring. If it is a positive result, you're going to see a red cherry-like ring. And if you see that, then you know that there is indole in the broth. All right, and that concludes the third test of the biochemical tests. Thanks for watching.